What is up, Booger Beans? Welcome back to another episode of Adventures with Boog. On this episode, it's probably going to be pretty short and sweet. We're going to try and install the plumbing vent on the roof. It's currently raining, so we can't cut a hole in the roof yet, but we're hoping to install that, as well as hopefully finalizing some of the 1.5-inch plumbing, i.e. for the sinks, the vanity, and the kitchen sink. So we'll hopefully get that done, as well as the piping for the heaters. I would like to get that all solidified and finished up. But before we get going too much further, I would like to announce the winners of our 500 subscriber giveaway. So thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate it. We're at 525-ish subscribers now. On to that next goal of 1,000 subscribers. So if you like our videos, please share them along your social media channels. Let people know about us, and yeah, go from there. So we would like to congratulate Amber and Nina Dali DeSanto. Sorry if we said your name wrong. And Mike Barnstable. So Amber and Nina, you are the winner of the AWB hoodie. And Mike, you are the winner of our AWB t-shirt. So if you just send us an email to adventureswithboog@gmail.com, Mike and Nina, we will send you a coupon code for a free hoodie and t-shirt respectively. But yeah, congratulations, and thanks for the support and thanks for watching, and let's get on to doing some venting. Alright guys, so like I said, we're starting to work back inside the bus, so the dogs are going to be back out here with us again, and hopefully traveling with us very soon. But I've got another 1.5-inch sanitary tee that we're going to put on this vent stack right here. So we have one that goes over to the vanity, kind of behind the tub and over to the vanity, and the other one comes through here. Will end up going through our side of our cabinet and up to the kitchen sink. Just so you guys know, you can get something called a double sanitary tee, and then you wouldn't need to stack them on top of each other like I did here. But I didn't know that until after the fact. So we ended up getting 2 singles like this. And that guy will get glued on there just like that. And then we'll be venting, running the stack. We'll run up along the wall and then kind of curve over and come up through right kind of at the end of the wall. At the end of the wall here. And then go through the roof where it's a bit more flat. It's easier to cut a hole through the roof where it's flat compared to where it's really curved. So that's why we'll be doing that. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, Beans, so there we go. We've got the pipe coming up along the ceiling, basically as tight as we can keep it to the ceiling, and then popping right out the roof right here. We have a nice tight fitting on the outside, and that comes down and touches right against the ceiling, and then we are just going to goop the crap out of the outside. I tried to find flashing for 1.5-inch piping. Apparently that's really hard to find. I can't seem to find it anywhere unless it's like a special order item for like $60, $70, which is, I don't know, that seems crazy to me when a regular one's like 10 bucks. So we're just gonna goop it. That's how we've done with everything else, and that's how lots of people do it on their RVs. So that's the way we're gonna do it. And so right now it's all test fit and it fits perfectly. Now I'm gonna take it apart and start gluing it all together and actually solidifying all the joints so that it is usable. So this is actually, I don't know if I really talked about this. This is the air vent. So there's no actual water running in here until it gets to the sink down at the floor. This just allows air to come into the system as the water is drained, which helps prevent any issues of basically backflow, as well as like sometimes if you drain a sink, it goes like blub, 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 like gargles like that. This will help to prevent that and make the flow into the tank a lot easier, as well as a lot faster. Because it's not trying to pull air from other places. It speeds up the velocity inside the pipe, which allows it to drain any yuckies easier. It speeds up the velocity. But yeah. Oh, it's raining on me. Great. inside the bus, it's raining. So, ideally you do this on a day that's not raining. It was raining this morning, but it looked like it had stopped. And now that I put a hole in the roof, it's raining again. So, that's perfect. But, let's try and get that sealed up here before it really starts raining, or before we have any issues. So I'm going to pop out this pipe and glue it all together. And then we'll be good to go. Let's get to it. So that pipe is installed. What I will do is get some of that all round and put strapping where it's very close to the ceiling to strap that all in and make sure it's tight, not going to move around. But yeah, it went up there pretty good. We gooped all around the vent on the roof. It's pretty good bead, but once that dries, I'll probably leave it for 2 or 3 days. And once that dries, I'll come back and push another bead over top of it just to make sure it's 100% sealed. We definitely don't want to have any leaks coming into our ceiling. And also this part of the pipe here will all be in a wall. So it will be very hard to check to see if it was leaking or anything like that. So we definitely don't want any leaks. So now I need to frame there's another wall that's going to go basically right here. And that's going to be where our pantry actually slides in and out of. So right now the space to our cabinets is 29¼ inches. Our fridge is only 19 inches wide. So we're going to leave a 20-inch wide space just so that we have a little bit of space, and then we can kind of put some shims or some blocking or whatever we need to do to make sure that fridge doesn't move. But I'm debating not building the wall until I have the fridge. But I would like to get this wall done, so I'm kind of in a pickle. But even at that, if we end up with, say, a 20-inch gap here, that leaves us about a 9-inch, maybe about an 8-inch wide pantry, which isn't super wide, but when you get this entire height of storage, you can fit lots of cans and jars and macaroni and cereal and all that kind of stuff is all going to fit in that sliding pantry. And it will be basically from the floor right up to the top here. It'll have a little bit of a curve on the top to prevent from hitting this pipe. But yeah, that's that. So I kind of think we need the fridge first before we do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on the heater piping. I've got the 3-inch pipe, a reducer, drop down, come over here, and we'll put the heater piping into this cabinet and get that all set up and lined up and make sure that's working. And then we'll move on to maybe the countertop. If you guys watched our last episode, the countertop we did basically became garbage. First off, I used the wrong screws. The boards weren't straight enough, and I was clamping the board while routing the board. And because I was clamping it, what happened is it actually bent the board straight. I routed it, it was completely flat. Then when I took it out of the clamps, it curled back up and made like this big cupped board, and it was just an absolute mess. So I played around with that board, cleaned it up a whole bunch, got it figured out how we're going to do it. We're using a biscuit joiner, and we'll use some of those screws, but we're not going to use nearly as many. We're also going to cut the board straight using the skill saw, not the table saw. So that'll come probably, I'm going to say later in this episode, if not the next episode. But yeah, let's get on to some of that heater piping, getting that all solidified and finished up. Pipe going into this cabinet. So the bottom 2-inch pipe is the pipe for our heater, and the top pipe is the pipe for our sink drain. I don't have these glued in yet because the bottom heater pipe, we need to pick up a couple more fittings. It's kind of like bent in there right now, and I don't want that. I want to have nice straight lines. So we have to get some 22.5-degree fittings to make sure this enters the heater plenum on the other side of this cabinet nice and straight. On this side here, you can see how it elbows into the vent stack, and then we'll have the same sort of thing happening on the other side. Then we'll build up a little wall just in front of this and cover this all up so you won't see any of it, and the fridge will kind of be tucked up right beside it. There will be a bit of space on the back of the fridge, but again, we might frame this up to fill that in and make sure that the fridge is nice and solid. But you do need a little bit of airspace behind the fridge to allow it to vent properly. These windows are just going to see the back of the fridge, and we are going to be putting limo tint on them. So this top window's already got it. The bottom window we need to tint, and then we'll be limo tinting them and then actually painting them black from the inside, so you won't be able to see through them. You won't even know that they're blacked out. And yeah, it seemed to work out pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with it. So we need to go pick up a couple more plumbing fittings, but that's it for now, and we'll go and do some work on the countertop, I think. Alright, so I've got all our new boards here. So a couple things. We tried to make sure that they were straight down the length, as well as I guess have no bow to them in any direction. Some of them have a little bit of a cup, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. We also tried to get ones that have a long straight grain and not very many knots. The less amount of knots, the better. So that will hopefully make the boards easier to work with. We've also went to 2x8s rather than 2x10s because I found the 2x8s were straighter and much cleaner than the 2x10s. So I don't know why that was, but that's what I found out. Also, another thing we picked up are Craig pocket hole screws. So what this is for is these screws are actually designed to be used with the pocket hole jig. So I'm hoping that they will work a little bit better in the places that we do use them. We won't be using a lot of these. We'll mostly be using this one, biscuits. So we have a biscuit joiner. So we're going to be using that to join most of the wood, but near the ends and on a couple spots where the wood, like on the countertop, there's like a bar portion where it's hanging by itself. We'll also use pocket screws there, just where we need a little bit of extra strength. There's just nothing we can do about it. We have to have that extra strength. So these are designed to work a little bit better and hopefully will not cause as many issues as the previous ones. So yeah, that's what we got, and I think we'll be good to go. What we're going to do to start here is we are going to take a chalk line and a straight edge, and we're going to cut these using a chalk line and a straight edge rather than the table saw. So what happens is, on a table saw, if you have a fence, but it's not the entire length of the board, what can happen is if there's a bow in the board, once it goes past that point, the bow can actually be migrated into the cut that you're making, which ended up happening to us last time. So I'm hoping by using a chalk line, creating a completely straight line, and then using a straight edge, we can run the skill saw along it, and that will give us a straighter edge to join the points or the boards together. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get a chalk line, a skill saw, and we're going to straight edge and cut it. So let's get going. Alright guys, so we've got the boards all cut, and now what we're doing is making sure the gaps are as tight as we can make them. So what I'm doing is wherever the boards are touching, or if there's a gap, wherever that gap ends on either side, I'm just putting a little mark, and then I'm going to take the hand planer and smooth those high spots down and try and make sure these gaps are as tight as we can possibly get them to to make sure that when we biscuit join it and screw it together, we're not going to have any twisting or warping or anything like that happening because there's no space to move. So that's the plan now, and we just got to do some cleanup and make sure that they fit really, really nice and tight. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so we've got them planed and the gaps about as tight as I can get them, really. They're a lot tighter than they were on the previous setup. Also, what we've done with the grain is have the grain go one direction and then in the other board go the opposite direction to help stop any cupping or warpage that may happen when we're cutting it or as it dries over time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be joining these boards using biscuits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the end 4 inches to start, and then every 12 inches after that, and I'm just going to put a mark across both boards so that I know the center line on the biscuit joiner will line up with that mark, which will also line up on the other boards. I'm going to do that for all the boards now. Alright guys, so here is the biscuit joiner. So inside of here is basically a little saw blade that kind of sticks out. It goes back and forth like that. So now what I'm going to do is it has these center marks. I'm going to line that up with the center mark of the mark that we just measured on the boards and just basically turn the saw on and push them in. What we're going to do is we're going to join 2 boards to start, well 2 sets of 2 boards I guess. Join those all, let them cure, let them be solid and complete, and then we'll join the middle together. I don't currently have big enough clamps, so I'm going to have to research a way to clamp that down and tight. So I don't really know how I'm going to do that, but we'll figure it out. We are using number 20 biscuits. I also have number 10 biscuits. Number 20 are the biggest. Again, I want this countertop to be really solid, so that's why I'm going with the bigger biscuits. We have the depth of the saw set to 3/4 of an inch, which is half the width of our board, so it should be right in the center. Also, since we're basing the depth of the biscuit off the top of the board, what should happen is if we do that on both boards, the biscuit will be in the same spot, which means if the board has a little bit of a warp, hopefully we can pull it straight to make the biscuit line up. So that's the hope, and let's do some cutting here. Guys, so we got it all clamped up here. What we ended up having to do was take and put a piece of angle on either side of my welding table and clamp that to the welding table, and then use the other clamps backwards to squeeze that gap closed. It looks freaking pristine. Like, it is so nice and tight. It's very, very level. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch here or there. But it looks really, really good. So yeah, it looks awesome. Now what I'm going to do is let this sit for a couple hours. We've got some running around to do, so I'm going to let this sit, make sure this glue is fully cured. It's also really cold in here right now. It's only 3 degrees out. So it's pretty chilly in the shop, so that glue is going to take a while to dry. And then we'll come back, take it off, do the same thing to the other side, clamp it all in here, and then we'll do the same thing to those two together. I don't know how I'm going to clamp those together, so we're going to have to figure that out, so stay tuned. The glue has mostly cured up. It's been hanging out for about 3 hours now. So what I'm going to do before I remove the clamps is I'm going to take some of these just kind of scrap pieces of 2x3 I had laying around, put them on here and put screws through the 2x3, and that will help hold it together to ensure it's cured overnight basically. But I also want to get the other one put together so that this doesn't take like 4 or 5 days to finish up here. So I want to get that screwed on there, and then we're also going to take a couple of the pocket hole screws, and we're just going to put one probably every 24 inches just to make sure that it's nice and tight and holding everything together. And it's just putting something solid across the joint. I figured out a little bit of a different way to use the pocket hole screws and the pocket hole jigs, so it's not going to come all the way through the top, and it leaves us about a 1/2 inch gap between the top of the material and the screw. So if we're taking off that much material, I've done something else wrong somewhere else along the line. So I'm hoping that we won't run into any of those hitting screw issues over the next little while. Also, these 2x3s will come off once we get it all clamped together and everything. I did head over to Canadian Tire and picked up two 36-inch bar clamps, and I have another one that I already had, because once we actually put the table together, it's going to be very hard to clamp the whole thing. So I've got some 8-foot pieces of angle iron. I'm going to use those on the side of the wood, and then clamp those together, and then try and squish it with ratchet straps, I think, plus these clamps, and I think that'll be enough to bring it all together. So yeah, let's screw these boards on, and then we will start on the next two. This guy is gluing up. The one board does have a bit of a twist in it. So I've clamped it to straighten it out, which unfortunately opened up a bit of a gap. Not ideal, that's for sure, but we'll just end up, filling the gap with glue and go from there. That's all we can really do. The other set of boards looks really, really nice and straight. A couple gaps on the back side as well, so again, we've just put glue in them. I put about 10 pocket screws in that one, maybe one every foot, one from one side, one from the other side. And that's, again, just to make sure that there's something nice and solid going across that connection. And I was able to play around with the jig and the screws to make sure that we have a lot of space to plane. That being said, the top surface of these are lining up really nice and straight, so I'm hoping we don't have to router much of the surface. It's looking really nice and clean. These guys are probably going to sit probably till late this evening until I try and glue these two together. So yeah, they're just kind of sitting and hanging out, and we'll get back with you when we're ready to glue the next set together. Okay, Beans, so we got the table fully put together. So we did the same biscuit jointing like we had done before, but now we put a 8-foot angle iron on the side. That's this black steel right here. We put an 8-foot piece of angle iron on either side of the board. Then we use ratchet straps and a flattening board in the middle to clamp it all together. There's a couple gaps that we just unfortunately couldn't get figured out. We tried to plane the board and tried to get it all smoothed out to get them to fit, but we got it as best we could. The table is 1,000 times straighter than the previous countertop we created. Much, much nicer. It's going to be much easier to plane and clean up, and like we might have to take maybe 1/8 of an inch off the top. So I'm really, really stoked about that. But that's where we're going to end this episode for today. On the next episode, we'll be planing the countertop, burning the countertop, and hopefully finishing the countertop. So I think I can get that done next week and get it installed, and then we'll move on to getting a sink and the plumbing and all that stuff coming. So that's coming very shortly. Winter is coming soon, but we've got everything. I have a couple little things, but I say 99% of the outside of the bus is complete and sealed up before winter. So I just have to heat trace the water piping and put heating pads on the water tank, the gray water tank, and then we have to spray foam or insulate it somehow. So that will be coming too. I don't know, that probably might be next episode, but I don't know for sure. Congratulations to our winners of the hoodie and the t-shirt, Nina and Mike. Thanks for subscribing, really appreciate it. Only about 30% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you could just go hit that subscribe button. It doesn't take any time at all. It's absolutely free. Hit the notifications if you like to see our brand new episodes. Also, if you have time, check out shopawb.com. We have a coupon code over there. Just use coupon code FREE5 and you get $5 off any product in our store, which means stickers are basically free. You just have to pay like $2 or $3 shipping and handling. So go check that out. And as always, guys, thanks for watching and have a great night. Okay,